Hello and welcome to another episode of the MLS Soccer Show. I am your host, Tim Crean. With me as always is my co-host, Mike Calandrillo. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Tim. It's been a fun week. We got so much to talk about in the world of international soccer, a little bit of MLS. There's so much going on. Let's take it away, my man.
Yeah, so we're going to start with the U.S. men's national team. Their great week. One of the games, of course, their draw with Mexico, their monster victory over Panama that, of course, you attended. And so we will talk all about that. And we'll even talk a little bit about the Costa Rica game, although by the time you guys all listen to this, that game will probably be in the books. Hopefully just not a 6-0 loss for the United States. But we'll get into that in a second. First, let's go chronologically, Mike, and talk about the 0-0 draw in Mexico. What were your thoughts from that game?
Gregg Berhalter did what we wanted. He put out the best healthy starting 11 that we possibly had. And, Tato Martino did the same. He put out his best 11 because he was looking to climb up to second in the ever famous octagonal standings. Chucky Lozano was big, and that meant that I'm going to say it because he wants people to call him Jedi Robinson. That literally is what he wants people to call him. I don't know why. But it was clear that Robinson was going to have his hands full all night, especially, defensively, obviously, him being a left back. And it drove me crazy the amount of times that Jedi was said, probably 30, 40, 50 times. But I'll give Robinson his flowers. His ability to get up and down the pitch was really, really important, and it kept Chucky in check. Chucky in check. I think that's the tagline we need to work with. But again, it goes to Pulisic. I know that the cross from Weah that Pulisic had on his foot, low cross, was tailor-made to be a goal. And that's going to stick out in everybody's mind. Obviously, it looked like a sitter. But, let's give Pulisic a little bit of credit, and maybe we can say that now in hindsight after what we know what he did against Panama. So maybe it's good we don't record this show right after. But anyway, his movement looked really, really good. He was much improved against Mexico from the previous 3 games, from previously what he was doing to Chelsea. He drove at space. He was aggressive, more than he'd done so with the national team for a long time. Regardless that he missed a chance. My big takeaway, really, besides my main takeaway, is Gio Reyna. I know you love Gio Reyna. I know that he is our number 2 man crush here behind Walker Zimmerman. The kid's 19, okay? We forget this, all right? And I went back and forth a little on Twitter. Brian Denseth of SiriusXM, I sent him a picture and he was just like, man, he is a big dude. You forget how big he is in person, and you really, really do. And I think, it's not really going on a limb, but he's going to take his next step in his career within the next 12 to 16 months. And I think at that World Cup, he's going to be able to command a whole lot of money right after if he performs the way that we really expect him. And it'll likely be to an EPL team. He's been linked with his good friend Erling Haaland for quite some time now to potentially go to City, which I know you obviously love.
Just like his father.
Again, yes, his father. In the 71st minute, he put an amazing first touch on a first touch lob to the foot of Jordan Pefok, which, my man, what were you doing? Where were you looking, and where did you kick that ball? You were wide right like Scott Norwood. Does that work for you there, Tim?
That's not okay. That's not cool.
Tim's a Buffalo Bills fan, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, 5 minutes later, Gio looked like Lionel Messi, carving his way through the defense, slaloming him way past 7 men across 50-plus yards. It was amazing. He dipsy dude his way, Dickie V, we love you, all the way up until about the 18 when he lost the ball. He had to be tired. A healthy starting Gio in the starting 11 is going to propel this team to big things. And my other big takeaway, which you may want to correct me because we've got different feelings, but it's still that we don't have a number 9. I know Jesus Ferreira scored a goal in the Panama game. It was off a deflected Paul Arriola shot, so let's not get crazy. He was in the right place at the right time, hit the right time, okay? But I'm even going to give it to Berhalter, who said right after the Panama game that there are still likely to be players that are going to come in to the potential World Cup team that aren't on this team right now, which is the final 3 games. There's going to be plenty of friendlies, obviously, before the World Cup. But the fact is we may see another number 9, which is a little scary. And that's my biggest concern headed in Will we see Sargent, who's played decent at Norwich? Will we see DK, who hasn't really played much because of injury while at West Brom? Matthew Hoppy's another guy who's played sparingly, not necessarily a number 9, but will these guys come in? Is it going to be Ferreira, who's played really well for Dallas this year? Do we go back to Pifak, who did not play well in this game? Oh, there's still so many questions. I don't want to see Zardes. I don't want to see Altidore. Oh, please, let's not go down that road. So that's really what I have to say as far as the Mexico game is concerned. Still leaving me with questions. Tim, talk me off the ledge and tell me why it's both probably going to be Jesus Ferreira.
Yeah, well, first of all, Altidore and Zardes, don't even get started with those names. That we know how that turns out, and it's not well. And we're going to talk about Jesus Ferreira when we talk about Panama a little more. But, don't discount being in the right place at the right time for a number 9 for a striker because, there's plenty. Some of our favorite strikers, Harry Kane, Sergio Aguero, made a career of being in the right place at the right time and turning those into goals. And that's not a small skill. But we're going to talk about Ferreira more. Just for the Mexico game, first and foremost, the team got a point at Estadio Azteca. It's only the 4th time in World Cup qualifying history they've done that. So that's a moral victory for the U.S. men's national team there. And the point helps them qualify, which they're now on the verge of doing. That said, it's hard not to be disappointed that the U.S. didn't take home the real W, not just the moral W. The 2 huge misses by Pulisic and P-Folk were bad. You got to bury that in big spots, and it's gonna be loud and ugly and hot in Qatar, and it's gonna be a bad environment. Maybe not quite as unfriendly as Azteca is, but they need to bury those in big games, and so that's something to watch out. And while they kind of dominated the game, I think that there's a little bit of a problem forming offensively. That when you have Pulisic and Weah and later Gio Reyna out there, these guys are supposed to be wings, and they just can't help themselves. They try to play a bit of hero ball and pinch into the middle. They want to score those goals, which I get it. They're the best players on the team. There's not a really great number 9 on the roster, so it's going to be up to these guys to score goals. But that completely blows away the entire team spacing up front, and the middle just gets so congested and not a good way. And these European-based players up front is tough because they aren't the traditional wings. They don't stay to their roles outside, and any kind of system that Berhalter might want to play seems to get blown up when all those guys are in there together. So that's something to watch going forward. And it didn't result in goals. The end of that game got really defensive for the U.S. It got really dicey. Like you said, Lozano was fantastic. I mean, he was the best player on the pitch for Mexico. But they came away with a win. That's the takeaway here, or with the moral win and the draw. So that's the point, and it left it up to the Panama game where the team responded in a huge way. And of course, you were in attendance at this really historic game for the U.S. After last World Cup's collapse. So tell us about the whole experience and then what you thought about the game.
So much fun. I always try to take a friend or a buddy that's not necessarily, maybe not a soccer fan, but hasn't experienced it. And even myself, I've been to a ton of soccer games, MLS, hundreds of times, but I've never been to a U.S. National team game, and especially one of this magnitude. So, man, just getting downtown Orlando, hour and a half before, the party atmosphere, the vibe, everybody's decked out in red, white, and blue. It was just so cool. And my buddy, he was in the Army, so he's a patriot and he loved everything. Whether or not he knew about soccer, he just loved the atmosphere, and it's so cool. Downtown Church Street in Orlando reminds you a little bit of New Orleans with that whole Mardi Gras vibe, and it was a party atmosphere. Everybody was in a good frame of mind. Nobody wanted trouble. It was just, you could tell everybody was there to root for us, and it was such an awesome experience just walking to the stadium. And then you get to the stadium, and then people are chanting USA, and it's awesome. And we'll talk about it, but it was like Orlando, whether or not, look, they're playing really well here. They've played well here in Orlando City. What used to be Orlando City Stadium is now Exploria Stadium. Perhaps eventually it could be the home of U.S. soccer. I know traditionally that's a place like Columbus, but it's really cold there, and we give people frostbite when we go to Minnesota. So maybe we don't want to.
There's some home field advantage there too, though.
Yeah,
to keep it cold for these Central American teams.
It's true. So maybe we'll just bring European teams to Florida in the 90-degree weather when it comes to the summertime. But you know what? I got to give it to Captain America. You know what? look, he showed a lot of character, a lot of moxie. He was not afraid to get chippy with the Panama team that were trying all first half to get under the U.S.'s skin, and especially Christian Pulisic. They knew that he's our number one, he's our guy, and Panama's not that talented, and they did what they had to do. They tried to, really draw yellow cards, get somebody potentially thrown out, and for the first say 15 minutes, it kind of worked. But again, it really went back to the U.S. being dedicated, being working within the system, and Berhalter put out a pretty solid club overall. Happily, it worked. Obviously, it's the first time the U.S. men's national team has scored 3 goals in the first half in a World Cup qualifier since the last time they actually played Panama here in Orlando, the home of World Cup U.S. soccer, since 2017. So we got that. The team, we got that penalty in the 17th minute from Pulisic. Fundamentally, in my opinion, it really changed the game. It allowed the U.S. to sit deeper, press less aggressively than normal. And again, we go back every show, we talk about possession. The Panama had the ball 60.7% of the time. But it didn't matter because it allowed the U.S. to deny Panama the ability to generate good chances. Panama was then forced to play up the field much more aggressively than they probably would have wanted, especially being down 1-0 so quick. And as a result, the U.S. found space to drive into the attack, generated extremely high-quality shots. They outshot Panama 15-10. The goal expected differential, my favorite, XG, was almost 5 times higher than Panama, and that is huge. So, Tim, there's a lot of good that went on. And before I get into my players that I was happily excited to see and got some good takeaways, what did you feel about the game? Again, watching it on TV, what was there anything you saw? I mean, there's so much going on in the moment, especially that at one play where it was that feverish in the box where the ball went off twice off the post. And I was just like, what the hell is going on? Because it was right in front of me. And I can't believe Panama didn't score. But aside from that, from your perspective, and sometimes being on TV, getting the TV view is a lot better than being on the pitch. What did you see?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. My biggest takeaway from here wasn't so much tactical or anything like that. It was more just a feeling that there is some attitude, some fight in this U.S. men's national team that we haven't seen for a very long time. And they needed this game. They needed this game to be a win, a real win, not a moral victory. They needed to take the 3 points here. And they came out blazing. And that is something that I think this game is a good stepping stone to go forward into the friendlies against bigger teams, into the World Cup. And when they do get to Qatar, if they can take that attitude and that fire that they had in this game, that's going to serve them really well. Because, we all know after Alexi Lalas's rant in 2017, after who else? Stu Holt, like all these guys had these big blow-ups. And they all question their toughness. They question their desire. And this is the game they showed up and did it. And not just beat Panama like they should, but really took it to them and just an avalanche of offense. And I thought it was great to see. So that was my biggest takeaway. And it did look like a party atmosphere on TV. So that was great too.
Yeah. A lot of fun. And let's never forget Taylor Twellman losing his mind, because that's
Taylor Twellman, exactly. That's the other one.
Never seen that. Google it. Yeah. Real quick, some of the guys that for me stood out were Luca De La Torre. I followed this kid since he was at Fulham. I mean, that was many years ago. He's playing in the Eredivisie now. He really looks like he's cemented himself as a first alternate in the midfield, and whether you think that's not important or it's really important, especially from here on out. He motivates the team. He's a short in possession. He brings a welcome degree of dynamism, creativity to the midfield, which sometimes can be lacking, especially when you're missing Weston McKennie, who's got a broken foot. And my biggest thing is he looks out for his teammates. If you have not seen it, go on Twitter. There is an amazing video of him constantly inserting himself in between his teammates and the ref when things were percolating. It's wonderful. It's almost like John Gruden doing that Monday Night Football thing where he kind of has the X and the O's and he's circling where De La Torre inserts himself in front of Pulisic when Pulisic went over into the sideline. It was really great. You need a guy like that. And he's not going to start, but if he can bring that fire even to the bench and keep the reserves hot and going, that's what you need.
Yeah, and I saw that video. It was great. I mean, He stuck up to the Panamanians. He stuck up to the refs. He protected Pulisic. when you have a superstar, and I mean, this goes back to, the Wayne Gretzky, Marty McSorley days, like back in the NHL, like you need a personal protector because people are going to try to take liberties with your best player. And Del Torre feels like he can do that role. He was a huge bright spot from the game. And, they don't have a lot of edge, a lot of toughness without McKinney in the lineup. And so I like that. I know you say he's the first alternate, but man, I'd like to see him play with McKinney at some point. They play a very similar position and style. So I don't know how much they're going to play together, but the other problem there is that McKinney might not be back until the opening round of the World Cup. We'll see how he recovers from his injury. Hopefully they can get on the field together for some friendlies, and maybe they do make a pairing. Because who do you have? Him, McKinney, and Adams as the midfield?
Yeah, like Adam's character, he showed a lot of fight as well. It's a small pairing. I'm going to say that. I mean, if these guys are 5'9", that's pushing it. It doesn't necessarily mean everything. It just means, some of the control. And luckily, they're stronger. They're stockier on the ball than some. But yeah, if I had to say today, those are my two. And they work really well together, McKinney and Adams.
So like but again, as a second one, you're going to get some starts. You're going to get a lot of playing time. So seeing how him and McKinney work together, I think would be really nice. But Mike, I mean, this game was all about the Wonder Boy more than anything. What were your thoughts on Pulisic?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he was super aggressive. I showed it on the second goal with him driving in behind the Panamanian backline, eventually setting up with the Jedi to make the cross for the winning goal. And that was the third goal. The third goal, Tim. It's what the kids call the sauce, okay? The sauce was hot. I mean, yeah, look, the first two goals came on PKs. There's always going to be somebody that is just annoying and calls you out on that. But I'm going to give it to Christian because that showed confidence. It showed an ability to make necessary shots. Because what would have happened if he would have missed one of those? Or God forbid, two of those, we would all be talking about that. But he buried them. He put them in. He even kicked the second one the first one to the goalie side that the goalie dove. So that was awesome. But that third goal, that was all set up from those first two because he was confident. He was so confident. There was a ton of flair. Look, he took the first touch. He nutmegged the second guy. He put the nail in the coffin for the hat trick. Anything less than should be uncivilized, to take a former commercial that used to be famous. So it was fantastic. It was absolutely phenomenal. And then my second guy is your boy, Walker Zimmerman. Underrated because he's a center back. And a lot of times if you don't hear a center back, that means he's doing his job, okay? And you got to give credit to the midfield, too, to keep the ball from getting sometimes to the center backs. But his presence is so important in that back line. He's calm. He moves all around the pitch. He's got great fluidity. He's not a burner. He doesn't have to be. He's a giant man. But he's great on headers as well. I think that's super important. Reyna, like I said, much bigger in person. This kid, if he's healthy, please stay healthy, Dortmund. Do not run him into the ground as you're famous for doing with certain players. We need him because he can play that right wing, which he probably definitely should start off with Paul Arriola. He can play that number 10 if Pulisic gets pushed out wide. There's a lot of options. Tim Weah moving forward. There's a lot of guys. Like you said, there's a lot of wings, so we can only start so many. I thought Shaq Moore was good, brought good energy. He had good pace. I thought his crosses were not so good. That concerns me. That's, for me, the right back needs to be Serginho Dest. And again, Berhalter mentioned as much that he was missing. Mentioned, look what he's doing at Barca. Even though he doesn't play as much as he did last year, he's been really, really good. And again, he can score. I mean, this is a guy that's played some right wing from Barca, and he's not that that's going to happen here, but he can score with the best of them. So we need that type of player. And then Stefan. He's a little shaky at times, and that comes from not starting. We talk about that all the time. He's at City. He's not going to play ahead of Ederson unless they're playing in the Carabao Cup or some type of other crummy cup.
Some kind of shield.
Yeah, shield, supporter shield, some kind of virus shield. He just didn't have a ton of authority when he came out of the 8-yard box, and he didn't play the ball especially well with his feet out from the back as well. I don't love that. He's a little slow, especially on the headed goal towards the end of the game, and that could be chalked up to stamina. Obviously, him playing all 90 minutes in Mexico. But for someone that's 6'3", and maybe it's because he's only $190, but he looks like a giant man in person as well. He needs to own that area. Kind of the way, and again, Turner's not much bigger, but Turner really, when you feel more confident, and again, I'm not on the pitch with him, so I can't speak to his teammates, but from a supporter's perspective, he looks like he owns that box and you don't want to get anywhere near him or he'll put a boot up your backside. And I want to see that more from Stefan. That just may not be his game, but he is such a bigger presence than everybody else on the pitch that he needs to throw that body around. And maybe he does need to gain 10 to 15 pounds of muscle to feel more adequate. But I just want to see a little bit more.
Wait, real quick. The one thing I'll say about Stefan, though, is that just the one thing he does bring is that kind of city distribution. And Sean Johnson has some of that too, playing at NYCFC and kind of part of that city system. So I agree he does need to be stronger, but you do want to kind of balance that out because I do think that's an important thing, especially when the U.S. is playing kind of as Route 1 football, as direct as they have been kind of up the pitch in these last couple of games. You do want to see that distribution. No,
I totally agree. All right, now I've waited long enough. I want to hear about Jesus Ferreira.
Yeah, listen, Paul Arriola and Jesus Ferreira were the best, outside of Pulisic probably, were the best parts of this game. They looked like they had a chemistry. Arriola will actually play on the wing as opposed to some of these other guys. So, Again, that opens up space in the middle. And, Ferreira has a lot of confidence from playing at FC Dallas and scoring those 3 goals in his last game. Confidence playing with his teammate. And I want this to start a quick, longer conversation about, should Berhalter be starting more MLS players? Should he be adding more MLS players to the roster? There's something to be said about the chemistry between teammates, about the chemistry of style of play between people who play in the same leagues. And I mean, you look around the world, look at England, right? They have John Stones and Kyle Walker who really pair well in a defensive 3-man back because they play together at City. Up front, they have Sterling and Foden, again, who work well off each other because of their connection at City. And then just from the kind of style points of the league, I mean, Germany is basically all Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund guys. Spain is basically all Barcelona and Real Madrid guys. So, MLS is getting to a level where they have a style of play. It's direct, it's defensive, it's counterattacking, it's tough. Do you want to add more of that? Because when you have Pulisic, when you have Weah and McKinney and Reyna and Dest, you're looking at a player from England, from Italy, from Germany, from Spain. You're looking for a player from all those leagues. Eredivisie, you said, these guys play in the Netherlands. So these guys are all spending all their club time playing different styles, whereas the MLS guys all come from a similar stylistic league, and that could be a style that could give other team problems. Because you watch this game, and look, they are never going to be a Pep Guardiola coach tiki-taka team, as much as they try sometimes. I think they got bogged down a little bit of that against Mexico. They tried and they just continually lost the ball. They need to have more, I think, of an MLS type style. And would having more MLS players help for that?
I mean, we do have the second most MLS players behind Canada, believe it or not, which everybody always used to point out, oh, you've got too many MLS players. And that was always the argument, you need to play against the best to be the best. And, I totally get that, but I also understand your point, that it would create more cohesion. It's tough. My biggest thing and the most important thing to me, and I could be wrong, is playing. I mean, I just literally just said it with Stefan. I feel like if you're in Europe and you're starting every game, maybe when Gio is healthy, he starts the majority of matches for Dortmund. But you look at Pulisic this year, you look at Stefan, you look at Dest. I mean, you can go up and down the lineup, and these guys are not starting more than 35-40% of games for their clubs. So that for me is the biggest concern. And it's funny because then you look at guys like a Walker Zimmerman, and you've got guys like Arriola, and you've got my boy Kellen Acosta, which I love. And these guys play every
week. And
Jesus Ferreira and Ricardo Pepi last year, and Daryl Dike last year before the Barnsley thing. So I think that the way the quality of MLS has raised throughout the years, I don't think it should even be a thing anymore where we're saying, well, no, you have to go to a Europe. I mean, you want to go, you want to challenge yourself. Absolutely. But I also don't understand to a certain extent, Matt Turner, you're leaving New England. You're Supporters Shield winner. You're in a World Cup season. Okay, you're hurt. But now you're going to Arsenal in June, where Aaron Ramsdale has been one of the main reasons that they're fighting for top 4. The season ends in June also. So how does this work? I mean, really, are you basically giving the keys to a Stefan and saying, well, it's going to be your position now because you've been playing and because, I mean, the team, even though he's in the same situation with City. So it's confusing to a certain extent because you want the best for the team, obviously, But what is that? Is it playing, or is it playing with the best talent against the best talent? Because Stefan gets to play against First Man City side every week in training, and he does have Pep Guardiola giving him all these wonderful lessons. But again, eventually he's gonna have to go somewhere and use them. Otherwise, I would think as a nation we're getting secondhand stuff because our guys just aren't playing day in and day out.
Yeah, and that's a great point that I didn't fully flesh out there, but it's true. I mean, playing is huge, and that's why I advocated for Ferreira to play in that first game against Mexico, because he was the hot hand, and P-Folk hadn't been playing all that well with his club team in Switzerland, and so I wanted him to play, and he didn't. So we're going to see this going forward.
You look back, I don't want to cut you off, but Tim Howard. Tim Howard was amazing for us for how many years? Why? Because he played at Manchester United. Before what? Before
and Everton.
But he played there before Van der Sar and then in between.
Right.
But yes, then he went to Everton and he started. 95% of matches he started, and he played it. And that wasn't necessarily the best league in the world at the time, but it was still top 3, top 4, 2 maybe. And look how good he was in 2010 and so on and so forth. And he's probably the greatest U.S. goalkeeper we've ever had. So he had that blend. And Everton wasn't a great team. And United was good, but they were up and down when he was there. But he played against the best players in the world, and he started. And I think that is the mix that eventually that we really need to get to with these guys. And that's why I've been all over Pulisic saying, man, you're so good. If you can stay healthy, get the heck out of Chelsea, because you've won trophies, but now you need to play. And that's really the biggest thing. And I don't know, maybe he does feel the same way, or maybe he wants to fight for that spot because we've all got egos. But I think Tim Howard is my biggest, star spangled banner salute, because he did it the right way. And he for us, for the U.S. men's national team, it worked.
Yeah, and Dempsey's another idea. Dempsey, when he was at Fulham, was playing a lot too. And again, Fulham wasn't the best. They were a mid-table club at best, and then they've fallen down to a lower table, a second-tier club now. But at the time, they were mid-table, and Dempsey played a lot. So that's something interesting to think about. We'll see what Berhalter does about that going forward and into the World Cup. But to get to the World Cup, the game is tonight. So many of you will be watching this on YouTube, listening to this on whatever network you get your podcast, the MLS show, after U.S. men's team play Costa Rica. But Mike, just any quick thoughts on tonight's game that the people can hang on to?
This is it. The last time these two guys met, the U.S. team registered a 2-1 victory at Lower.com Field in Columbus. Yeah, I said that before. Over the past 5 matches, Costa Rica has completely ceded possession, averaging 32.8% of the ball. So as we've said, doesn't necessarily mean anything. From the run of play, they really do a lot with their wingers. They direct passes over the top of the back line. So again, let's see if Zimmerman's playing tonight, how they're going to set up. Perhaps it's Miles Robinson. Maybe it's Aaron Long, who hasn't played a whole lot since his recovery from knee injury. The attack for Costa Rica is something that I was really interested in, just to try to find out more about against our opponent, obviously, because they only have 11 goals in 13 World Cup qualifying matches. Luckily, their defense is pretty good. They've only surrendered 8 during the entire octagonal round. So, obviously, Keylor Navas is Keylor Navas. He's one of the greatest goalkeepers of our generation. Super underappreciated, perhaps, is also another way to look at it. But look, the U.S., we need to lose by 6 goals to fall out of automatic qualification. Costa Rica sits in 4th, 3 points off the U.S. So unless we lose 6-0, which would be historically bad, and I do not want to see it, because I still will never forget Trinidad and Tobago. I don't think it's gonna happen. Therefore, a 4th place team, whoever that is, Costa Rica, is probably going to play against the Oceania's qualification campaign, either New Zealand or the Solomon Islands, New Zealand. So my question is, what does Costa Rica do? They've got 9 players sitting on yellow cards. That's a ton. That is a ton. And we just saw that with DeAndre Yedlin and Timothy, not George Weah. They missed the previous game on a yellow card. So what do you do if you're Costa Rica? Are you sitting those guys because you're not going to get 6 goals, or even if you get 2 goals and win the match, it doesn't mean anything? You're going to likely play in that 4th. Personally, that's what I would do. I would sit these guys, because Panama, who they're playing, is eliminated in the next. Canada, who have already qualified, doesn't matter. So personally, that's what I would do is, and we'll see. Qualification doesn't really mean anything at this point for the U.S. because they're in as long as they don't lose 6-0. So let's see what Berhalter does. Is he going to put out that number one team that we saw in the first game? Is it going to be his B squad completely? Cool thing that you guys should look for is that the pots for the World Cup actually come out on Friday. I'm hoping that the U.S. is in a pot 2. Pot 3 is going to be difficult. That is obviously going to put you up against some of the bigger nations, and we'll get into that a little bit later in our rankings. But yeah, I mean, obviously you want to win. You want to win handedly. But I can also see Berhalter pumping the brakes a little bit and playing. Is it Ferreira? He's been hot. Do we perhaps establish a number 9 tonight? Do I think Pulisic and Reina are going to play? I would be shocked. But yeah, I guess we'll see. It's nice to go into this game knowing that, barring a meteor hitting the field, we're going to be likely okay. Even though I was a little confused when I saw us unveil the qualifying banner at the end of the Panama game. I was like, wait a minute, did I miss something?
Yeah, that makes you a little nervous. I can't even entertain the idea of a 6-0 loss to a team that scored 11 goals. So it's not realistic. But again, Trinidad and Tobago happened, so you never know. The only thing I would say, and again, when you listen to this might have already been done and dusted here, but I'd like to see some of the guys we haven't seen who are on the bench. Manchester City legend Eric Palmer-Brown, who has yet to step on the field in the City Blue. He's been on loan for the last decade or so, I don't think that's exactly correct. But Christian Roldan, James Sands, like to see some of those guys get in there and do that. But that's it. It looks like the U.S. is heading to the World Cup, Mike. I mean, it's awesome.
And it's really great because this is honestly going to be the final World Cup qualifying of consequence. The next World Cup is going to expand to 48 nations, and six of them are going to be CONCACAF nations. There are 6 good CONCACAF nations, so it's a little watered down. And obviously, the next World Cup is being co-hosted by the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. So all 3 nations are automatically going to get qualified, which I guess is cool. So we can, if we don't have a number 9 within the next 4 years, we can definitely probably figure it out by then. But yeah, so enjoy the game because this is the last time you'll probably have to bite your fingernails, and yeah, just enjoy it for what it's worth because we're in there like swimwear in 2026.
There it is, World Cup in Qatar, November. Here we come. Now, Mike, for some ridiculous reason, there was MLS games this weekend. Yeah. So let's dive into those in our hot takes, our Tomas Calientes. And your team missing a lot of its stars. Drew 1-1, Orlando City won, Portland Timbers won. What were your takeaways from this game that should have never been played?
It was ridiculous. Yeah, when we were doing the rundown last week and I said, well, yeah, we're playing LAFC on the 2nd. I didn't even realize we were playing the Timbers beforehand because I didn't think it was the thing. How the MLS schedule 3 games? You can't do these things. You're killing me. Anyway, Orlando City, I've got a number of hot takes. They're all pretty hot. The first one is they should have won the game, okay?
Yeah.
Should have won the game.
It's not that hot.
80th minute Andres Pereira foul that led to a penalty kick. Again, VAR may or may not have been involved. Whether or not the ref didn't want to go look at it. Moron. I'm going to call myself. Despite not having our keeper, Pedro Gallese, Facundo Torres, who is really important, and Sebas Mendez, who is playing for Ecuador. All 3 of these guys playing for their countries in World Cup qualifying. The Lions' expected goals went from 0.2, terrible, in the first half to 0.8 by the end of the match, a little bit better. Timbers were 0.8 to 1.9 by the match's end. Both squads were getting more chances in the second half than the first. We talked about Orlando City can sometimes start a little slow. Anyway, second hot take. Benji Michel and Robin Janssen were both given yellow cards in stoppage time. Orlando City, you have to be a more disciplined team. Right. This bothers the crap out of me because you're committing fouls and receiving cards so late in games. It's costing you points. And on the road, 3 points as compared to 1 goes a long way to finishing higher in the standings when playoff time rolls around. I've said it. I'll say it again. I don't care when the game is. You don't want to drop points. I don't care if it's the 5th match of the season. Hot take number 3. Junior Urso is invaluable. This guy is money. 33 years old. The Bear. He's from Brazil. He's so good. He was responsible again for the Lions' lone goal of the day when he finished off a nice pass from my boy Alexander Pato in the 52nd minute, led the club with 3 shots, 2 on target, 70 touches at an 88.9% success rate of passing, 4 tackles in the defensive side, 1 interception, and a clearance. The man does it all. He is so good. Hot take number 4, Robin Janssen, Antonio Carlos are the best pair of center backs in the MLS. I don't want to hear it. You can at me if you want. Janssen had 4 tackles, 3 clearances, 2 block shots, and completed 92.1 of his 38 passes. Antonio Carlos, who last week my hot take was will make the MLS All-Star team. I still believe that. He blocked a shot. He led the team with 5 interceptions, 7 clearances, 61 touches from a center back, and won 3 aerial battles and passed at a decent 84.4% rate. There we go. A lot to get out at one time. So a lot of hot takes for Orlando because there just wasn't that many MLS games, but there should have been none. So there's another hot take.
Yeah, and love Junior Urso. He's been fantastic. My hot take is I've said it before. I'll say it again. Orlando just needs to go all out on offense. They need to find a way to get Benji Michel, Urso, Kara, Facundo Torres, Alexander Pato all on the field together. That is their key to success. And then just it's really ridiculous that some teams play during the international break.
Yeah.
No team should play, but if you're gonna have games, you have to have all the teams. Otherwise, it's not a level playing field. And these teams drop points, and like we always say, that can add up, and it's a big deal at the end of the year when it's playoff time. And to have some teams be forced to play without all their best players is a joke.
Oh, I mean, Orlando City finally won last week in LA for the first time since 2018, came home, then had to fly back to Portland. You're missing your goalkeeper, who's one of the hands-down best goalkeeper probably in CONCACAF. You've got Madison Stuhar, who did a pretty decent job, but you're depending solely on your defensive center backs because your wingers are iffy at best. You've got your best players, Junior Urso. Pato, who didn't start the week before, he did start. He looked good. He had the assist. Kara didn't start, came on with like 6 minutes left. I'm kind of confused of everything that went on. It was like, Pereira had a little bit of brain freeze. And yeah, it's just really, really curious as to why these things are happening. We saw it in the last World Cup cycle that these games kind of just went on and a lot of teams suffered. And luckily, Orlando City got a point. Again, should have been 3 points, but I guess at the end of the day, as a supporter, you got to say, we're missing all these guys. We got 1 point. So be it.
Yeah, all right. That so be it is right. 2 more ridiculous games. Sporting Kansas City 1, Real Salt Lake 0. I can't believe we both have something to say about this, but go ahead and tell me.
I'm reaching. I'm reaching here. Sporting Kansas City is the oldest team on the planet. Okay, Graham Zusi in the 58-minute pass Matt Beasler, who doesn't play there anymore, plays for Austin. He moved into first place for minutes played in all competitions for KC. 30,430 minutes played by Graham Zusi, who I'm pretty sure was on the World Cup team in 1980. He was really good for us back then. He made his 303rd start in MLS competitions, tying him with formerly mentioned Matt Beasler for the most all time. Holy goodness. Then there's Roger Espinoza, who made his 300th start in all competitions. Just the 3rd player to reach the mark. He's 35. And 152 days. Espinoza tied Kevin Hartman as the 9th oldest player to appear in or start a game for KC in both league play and all competitions. And then finally, there's Tim Melia, who made his 200th league start for KC, the goalkeeper. He's the 9th player to ever reach that mark. His 200th league start ties him with Seth Sinovich for 8th all-time on the list. Tim, Kansas City is not very good, and I think it's because they're ancient.
Yeah, and that's, Kansas City obviously is one of the reasons, probably the only reason that I enjoy them is because that's one of my favorite MLS drinking games is to take a sip every time a U.S. men's national team player who played with Tony Meola or Landon Donovan pops up. So Graham Zusi's on there. It's like when Dax McCarthy stomped on a player in the Nashville SC game last week. I was like, oh, look at Dax McCarthy. He's still alive. That's great. And now he's probably suspended for who knows how long.
Yeah, he got a red card. He deserved it.
Yeah. But, my only hot take here, surprising win. Again, international break, so it is what it is. But you just wonder if Real Salt Lake, who came in as one of the hottest teams in MLS after huge wins over Nashville and New England, and they have a big game coming up against Colorado this weekend. So I wonder if they kind of took Sporting Kansas City for granted, which I probably would too, but that could have been the key to the loss. And then the only teams that maybe should play to the international break because they don't have any players who are missing here are CharlotteFC and FCCincy. In the toilet bowl of the league, Charlotte, the expansion team, took down Cincinnati, or Stinkinnati, as Mike enjoys calling them, 2-0. What are your takeaways?
Well, there was a little bit of controversy that I actually didn't even write in my notes, but I read briefly about it in the Charlotte Observer that Karol Swiderski, who was, I guess, injured not this week, but the previous week, and was taken out of the game and then was listed as having, I think it was a hamstring injury. And that was reported to the Polish national team. And the Polish national team then said, well, he can stay home because he's not going to be able to play in the World Cup qualifiers. Well, it turns out that he obviously did play against Cincinnati. And there was some language, we'll call it, from the Polish people that run the team. So if you want to read that, go check it out because it was quite lively. Again, people that don't speak English, they speak it really well when they want to get their words out in forceful ways. So Poland was playing with only one striker. You might have heard of him, Robert Lewandowski. But again, Karol Swiderski is better than anyone expected. That is my hot take because, like Tim said last week, he is Robert Lewandowski light. Look, that second goal, the Galazzo left-footed free kick from a set piece, was certainly played the part. Absolutely amazing. Karol had a brace, now gives him 4 goals on the season, tied for the league lead with Brendan Vasquez. It's the first goal. The first goal came off of what we call here at the MLS Soccer Show's early call for Rookie of the Year, Ben Bender and his assist. This kid is fantastic. So good. I'm still blown away that Charlotte's doing anything, but kudos to them. Moving over to Stinkinnati. Their attack is very top heavy at the moment. Brendan Vasquez accounts for 80% of the club's goals through 5 matches. And obviously he was not involved in this game, hence not scoring anything. Cincinnati has scored 5 goals and already has been shut out 3 times through 5 games. That's not good. That's why they were in the bottom of our power rankings. The only other player to score this season for Stinkinnati is Ronald Matarrita, and he is not going to be doing anything anytime soon as he was taken out really, really badly in the World Cup qualifying game against Canada for his native Costa Rica. Mark Anthony Kaye got a yellow card. Took him out bad. It looks like it could potentially be a torn ankle tendon, which will require surgery, which is not good at all for Cincinnati because now you've got no other goals coming from anywhere except for Brendan Vasquez. And if you can, keep him out of the 18-yard box, you're likely going to win some games. So really, really bad. The only other good news, actually, is it good news? I don't know. It depends who you ask. Some Cincinnati fans were happy, some were not. They traded Gustavo Valencia to Colorado. The Colorado Cronkies back in it in exchange for a package of financial assets valued around $1.3 million. He's only played less than 25 matches, so that's a lot of money for a guy that's pretty much, new at this thing. You have to wonder, though, about the direction of the club because this is a 22-year-old center back who was thought to be the future of the club, and now he won't. In the meantime, the club gets an under-22 initiative roster spot. Hey, that's awesome. Wait a minute, you had a 22-year-old. And the back line gets a little bit older. So if you're a Stinkinnati fan, you got to be just as confused as you were before Vasquez went off a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that's true. And, speaking of being a Stinkinnati fan, on this podcast, that is where you fall because before the season, I said Charlotte was going to have more wins. You said Cincinnati. Yeah. We set the win total at 3.5. It actually looks like both teams will probably eclipse that. So they won't be as bad as either of us thought. But Charlotte, man, Swiderski and Bender are legit. They're going to upset some teams as the season goes on. Are you ready to hop on the Charlotte FC bandwagon with me and off the Stinkinnati bandwagon?
Nope.
Okay.
I definitely think Stinkinnati is going to be the worst team in the league, though. So
all right, there we go.
I will give them that. But yeah, I'm impressed with Cincinnati. Them, Austin. There's quite a few teams that are turning heads. I guess it's parity. You got to give it to MLS. There's a lot of the draft works to a certain extent. TAM and GAM and salary caps and all that works. Just doesn't work for Inter Miami.
Yeah, and I was going to say, at least they're not Inter Miami is what we can walk away from here. All right, So that is our Tomos Calientes, our hot takes for the week. We'll obviously have a lot more MLS talk on next week's show after the full slate of games on the weekend. But Mike, now let's rank stuff. And because we were talking about international football, the World Cup coming up, all that stuff, let's rank our top 5 World Cup favorites. And I'm going to ask you to do one more thing. I'm going to go ahead and guess that the U.S. probably isn't in your top 5. No. So tell me where in your top 10, 15, 20 rankings the U.S. is after you give us the top 5.
Okay. Number 5, Italy. I'm kidding. They lost. They lost to North Macedonia. It's a joke, guys. Work with me here. Come on. Number 5 is Brazil because they are Duke. They are the Duke of soccer. And look, FIFA's got them at number 2, which I don't agree with FIFA's ratings at all because I'll get to it in a minute. Belgium, I've got them at 4. FIFA's got them at 1. How are they number 1 when they've never won a big tournament since this golden generation of Toby Alderweireld and Jan Vertonghen and Kevin De Bruyne and Lukaku, and I could go on and on. They do. They have had a great run of things, but it gets you, a 3rd place finish in the World Cup, and this is it. This is their final shot. All those guys, not so much for De Bruyne and Lukaku, but that defense is so old that it's probably going to be in Sporting Kansas City next year. So look out for that. Number 3, I like to put number 3s as like my going out on a limb type of thing. And whether or not you think this is a limb, Spain, because they are very young. They played way above their heads in the Euros, getting to the semis and only losing in penalty kicks. Look, they don't have a great striker when Alvaro Morata is probably still your number 1, and it's not great. FIFA's got them at 7. Okay. Number 2, I'm going for the team that I rooted for in 2018 because we had no US and we had no Italy. That was a tough one. England, the recent Euro runner-up, my favorite player at this time, Harry Kane. FIFA's got him at 5. They just got to the consolation game in the Euros. They were number 4 in the previous World Cup. They're at number 5. How do we rank these? And number 1, and if you don't agree with this, then you're not watching football. It's France because they're just ridiculous. And FIFA has them at 3. What? I mean, Kylian Mbappe alone, and then you just go down the roster and it's just unfair. And they've growing kids at an alarming rate that are just one better than the next. It's really, really an amazing team, and it'll be very difficult to beat them, but it's a tournament and anything can happen. St. Peter's and the NCAA tournament. Moving to the men's national team, I love them. But look, getting out of the group stage, because we're going to qualify, would be a major, major win after missing this tournament 4 years ago. Getting to the quarterfinals would set the U.S. up for I'm going to call it an epic run at the 2026 Cup where we're going to be co-hosting. So that's what my goal is, okay? I want to get out of the group stage. Getting to the quarterfinals would be amazing because I feel like playing on more neutral places in the U.S. and Canada or Mexico, even Azteca Stadium, hey, what the heck, let's go. That would be awesome. FIFA has them ranked as 13. Mexico is currently 12. I have a hard time. Italy is 6. There's a little bit of skepticism there, but you know what? A month or so ago, they were at 10. I'm going to put the U.S. at number 10. Okay, there are better teams currently ahead of them. Not Italy and Mexico, but there's the Denmarks of the world and there's the Netherlands of the world. So there are teams that have been there. Even though the Netherlands missed the final World Cup, previous World Cup as well, and Portugal will be going as they were fortunate in Cristiano Ronaldo the other day to get in, and they're around there as well. But I like the U.S.'s 10. It gives them that underdog vibe. It doesn't give them too much pressure heading in. And again, we get out of the group stage. We feel good about ourselves, and we've come a long way as where we were 4 years ago. Tim, what you got?
So yeah, I'm going to start with the number 1 team at 5. Again, 'cause I don't know how FIFA ranks things.
Oh, yeah.
Belgium. I love Belgium. Kevin De Bruyne is one of my favorite players of all time. Vincent Kompany was when he was there, even though, he's pushing 40, so he may show up for the World Cup team. Who knows at this point with the age of their back line. Mm-hmm. But Eden Hazard is always a no-show in big spots. And so De Bruyne and Lukaku can only do so much. That's why they're 5, and they're never going to win a World Cup with this golden generation, unfortunately. Number 4, Argentina, in what could be Lionel Messi's last World Cup, probably should be his last World Cup. Yeah. Sergio Aguero, with his now heart condition, he's retired. He's not going to play. The Aguero dynamic with the national team was always kind of an issue, a distraction. I think with that gone and Messi in full Messi mode, he can do whatever he wants. They have a chance to be there when the dust settles. So therefore, in front of them, their South American counterparts, Brazil. Again, Brazil has just lately in the last couple World Cups been lesser than the sum of their parts. I mean, the parts are amazing. They have so much talent on that squad, but they just can't seem to get it together as a team. Number 2 is France. Think France is great. I know. Apparently, I'm not watching football because I don't see France as the great. But listen, Pogba is a guy who always steps up for his national team. Mbappe during the Euros played at an incredible level. Can they keep that up in the World Cup? I don't know. Usually there's some differential between how people play in the Euros and the World Cup, so that doesn't shock me. But I think England is going to go ahead and football is coming home. They are going to win the World Cup. Football's coming home. I don't care.
That's anymore. It's
my second favorite team. It's packed with Manchester City players, Premier League players. They're going to be good. They have so much young talent. Foden, Bellingham, Jadon Sancho, who we don't want to talk about, but just a ton of great guys on this team. And I think England is finally going to do it since 65, 56, somewhere in that neighborhood.
54, I think, something
54. Like that. Okay, yeah. So the football is coming home. Unfortunately, it's not coming home to the U.S. So listen, I agree. They're better than Mexico. You can even make an argument they're better than Denmark because, without Christian Eriksen, and I mean, I know he scored for the first time since that incredibly scary episode during the Euros with his heart condition. Unfortunately, he's just not one of the best players in the world like he was before that happened. So you can make an argument U.S. is better than Denmark. You can make an argument they're better than the Netherlands, who also missed out on the last World Cup. But again, you can make an argument that Croatia, who's ranked lower, Uruguay, who's ranked lower, might be better. So it does seem like top 12 is about right for where they are, right? I don't know if I could get them as high as 10, but I could get them as high as 12, which makes the top 16 to get in the World Cup realistic. It makes the top 8, like you said, the quarterfinals right on the line of being great. So I think getting out of the groups, unless they're in the group of death, is really a must. And I know you can't even think about that. But unless you're in the group of death, getting out is a must. And after that, everything is gravy. Again, setting up for the home 2026 World Cup, which is going to be huge. So that's where we rank the international teams at the moment. Mike, couple quick more things before we leave for today. Staying on the U.S. men's national team, you had a fun, potent quotables this week from Greg. Greg with 3 Gs, one at the front, 2 at the back. Yeah. Yes. As the old Saints coach used to say, the second G is for genius. And Berhalter, after the 5-1 victory where he looked like a genius, maybe, what do you have to say about the team? And then what do you have to say about the crowd that, of course, you were a part of?
Yeah, he was talking about me. Greg, after the win, he said, quote, "You can see exactly what the guys took on and their motivation to get back to the World Cup. We scored 5 goals in the game, and I think we could have had more if we were a little bit more clinical at times, but we made a big step towards our goal of qualifying for the World Cup." You're correct, and you also have the best shoe collection of any head coach I've ever seen. On the crowd, and he said, "Hey Mike, the crowd was unbelievable. We enjoyed playing in Orlando. This is exactly why the crowd, even when we arrived at the stadium, the people in their seats and the cheering really helped boost the team. There was drumming." He didn't say this, but he said, I said this. There was drumming, there was yelling, there was screaming, there were fireworks. It was America, and it was awesome. So that's what we need. We need more of that, and hopefully when we make the World Cup, we have some supporters go all the way to Qatar, or as I heard someone say it the other day, Qatar.
Yeah, the Qatar, however you want to pronounce it. I'm interested. I really am interested to see. It's one thing to go to Europe, to go to Asia, but for the American Outlaws to travel en masse to Qatar it's tough, and so we will see how that pans out in November.
I heard a great stat today that the gentleman said on the radio, Sirius XM. Every game being played in Qatar is within 32 miles of each other. That's crazy. Yeah, that I mean, so if you do go to Qatar, Qatar, Equator, you can drive there. You can probably walk to each stadium if you really don't. It's hot. But that's pretty cool, even though it probably shouldn't be there.
Yeah,
anyway.
but it also probably says something about the fact that little 32-mile circle you probably shouldn't go out of, or you're going to be in trouble. Because of the weather or whatever else. It's going to be an issue. So that's a great quote from Berhalter there. Great quotes from Berhalter there. But you also had an MLS quote, a potent quotable that you like today. Charlotte FC coach Miguel Ramirez. Let's hear it.
He's famous for his wonderful quotes, and I love funny quotes, and he's the best. He says, quote, "I feel like I'm improving as a coach, and I think that all these matches have only helped me grow. This is a long journey. This is only my third stint as a head coach. I'm practically still in diapers when it comes to a coaching career. My players have taught me a lot. They've been important in my growth as a coach," end quote. I mean, the guy, it's not his first language, but you know what? He owns it. And diapers, it's a young coach. Kudos to him. They look really good.
And it's interesting to hear Ramirez, who basically called his team because roster crap a month ago, and then he gets a designated player in Swiderski, and all of a sudden he's an improving coach. So apparently talent goes a long way, and it will help him get out of diapers here. Yeah, so moving on, last but not least, Mike, betting on football is fun. Recently more fun for you because you're 10-8 on the season. A little less fun for me because I'm 8-9, but we are each going to pick 7 games on the upcoming weekend, and hopefully you can keep your winning ways about you. I can get over Mount 500 and get back to winning some cash here.
Yeah.
But let's start with you, Mike. Give me your 7 games this weekend.
All right, take them in the order that you'd like, and if you lose, don't blame me. Blame Andrew. Producer. Austin plus 190 over San Jose. That seems pretty good. Kansas City Old Men plus 170 over Vancouver. That's a little dicey, but Vancouver's been awful. The Chicago Fire with Gagas Lolina plus 105 over Dallas. And this is the caveat. If no Jesus Ferreira. I don't think he's going to play. Personally, I think it would be smart if Dallas gives him a couple days off after playing, especially if he plays on Wednesday night. Right. Then I'm doing it. I'm probably going to regret it, but I'm going with Tim's team, NYCFC plus 125 over Toronto because they too are old and in Toronto. Then I'm going with a team that I really don't like, and this one could be a 3-3 draw as well, but I'm going to take Atlanta because it's plus 225 over DC. DC has not been great. We talked about them last week. They basically are the New York Red Bull, who I then take in the next as a draw. And this is always scary because who knows, but it's got 275 to it, which is why I took New York Red Bulls to draw New England. New England's not very good either, but just take the draw if you gotta. And then Houston plus 210, not a great team either, but they're playing Miami. So probably Miami's going to end up squeaking something out here because they just, they don't like me either. So it's probably just going to be a vendetta match. But if you're putting money down and you can get 210 on Houston, again, we're counting the days until the coaching change in Miami does happen. So hopefully Gary's got his bags packed.
Yeah, that's all interesting matches. Gary Neville is not long for the MLS, it seems, at this point. I have 7 games as well. I get my odds from FanDuel, so they're going to be some slightly different ones, but same general idea. I have NYCFC plus 115 over Toronto. I know that they beat Montreal. They lost to the Vancouver Whitecaps, so I see New York getting the edge in the series against the Canadian teams here with a win over Toronto. Again, there's a caveat on this one as well for me. Dallas FC plus 250 over Chicago. That's if Areola, Ferreira, and Velasco plays. Even if 2 of the 3 of them play, even if Ferreira does sit, if Areola and Velasco play, I will still take Dallas. I got LAFC, sorry Mike, over your plus 150 over your Orlando City. I have Philadelphia minus 240. The run in Charlotte stops now. That's not great odds, but if you want to throw that in a parlay to make it a little bigger and help boost your winnings, I think that Philly should take care of business pretty easily over Charlotte. Austin plus 80 over the San Jose Earthquakes. Portland Timbers, this I have a plus 250 draw versus the LA Galaxy. Both these teams are just kind of middling recently, and I think they settle for a draw here. And then, Mike, I'm with you. I'm going to follow Inter Miami right down the tubes for as long as the odds support it. So Houston Dynamo, who I'm not super confident in, but I just have so much more confidence in any team that's not coached by Gary Neville, owned by David Beckham, and does not play in Miami.
And let me correct myself and you. It's not Gary, it's Phil. It's the other
Phil
one.
Neville.
So,
oh my God, yeah, he said Gary Neville.
Kind of like my George Timothy Weah from last week. I'm just going to keep it going. If you're a brother or a son and a father, we're probably going to get you confused on this show. So Phil Neville, you should have your bags packed. Gary Neville is a pundit now in England and supposedly does really well on Sky Sports. So there's that. But yeah, you're right. Inter Miami, stinkeroo.
There you go. So once we start calling Gio Reyno Claudio, then we'll have a real problem here.
Somebody did that at the game. They were
did they really?
Yeah, they called him that, and then the announcer on the big board, when he got to Jesus Ferreira, he mentioned the same player right before he mentioned him again, and then the fans went quiet, and it was super awkward. So it just shows, scroll down. Just keep scrolling. That's all you're supposed to do.
There you go. Very like it. All right. Well, listen, that is going to be all for us today. Thank you, as always, to our producer, Ander Kula, who didn't make the show today, but he will be on the edit behind this, as always. And Mike, last but not least, before you tuck in for the U.S. Costa Rica game and to truly celebrate qualifying and put up that banner in your house, tell the people where they can follow us on social.
Yes, it is all the same. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, ML Soccer Show. If you want to watch this on YouTube, it is MLS Soccer Show. So make sure you type that in. And if you are following us, then you saw those fantastic videos that I took from the game the other night. Christian Pulisic scoring those two PKs. I got that. I got the players running out of the tunnel. So if you're not following us, that's the type of stuff that you want to see. We've got plenty of great graphics going on. Obviously, betting is fun. We got potent quotables. We got stuff there that you're going to want to keep up with. We've got some potentially wonderful interviews on deck. If we do that, we will put out an announcement, we'll call it, to let you know who and when, so that you can make sure that you tune in, because if it happens, fingers crossed, it is going to be fantastic.
Great. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.